welcome back to the series, Uncover the Purpose of Your Path. Today, I want to talk about living your joy like it's your job. When it comes to living our purpose in this life, living our joy is essential. This has always been true for me as well as my clients over the years because it helps us come home to ourselves, gain clarity, and have the energy that we need to do the work that we are here to do. It also brings new layers to our work because we are really experiencing and exploring and experimenting with life in really productive and profound ways. I want to talk today about two critical things about what it means to live our joy and how we start doing that. First, living our joy allows us to really hone in on and identify the things that truly light us up, which is very critical and essential for living our purpose. If you watched my earlier video, The Difference Between a Calling and a Whim, I talk about this a little bit, really leaning in and following our whims and impulses and urges and allowing them to be the stepping stones to uncovering our true calling and purpose in life. And living our joy is very similar. If you're not sure what your purpose is, you can really begin by focusing on living your joy, whatever that means for you. So think about the things that bring you joy and how you can prioritize them. That might be reading more, that might be getting outside, that might actually be learning and educating yourself on topics of interest. It could be nerding out on games with your friends, it could be going to art museums. Whatever it is, identify it, make a list of the things that bring you the most joy, and make more time for them in your day-to-day life. Something really key to focus on when we're trying to live our joy and find our purpose is discernment and self-awareness. Meaning, is this actually your joy or is it a distraction? You might feel like you get a ton of joy from watching TV and movies and playing video games. And the piece of discernment is, do you feel like you get joy because it distracts you from the things that make you unhappy and you don't have to really deal with or face your life? Or do you actually love these mediums, and do you love storytelling, and do you love the entire experience of playing a game? Only you can discern what is what, but there are a lot of things that we mistake for joy when really they are avoidance. And so you have to have that self-awareness and that ability to get honest with yourself and say, yes, this seems to bring me a sense of joy, but I'm actually using it to avoid things in my life that bring me the opposite. Sometimes they feel joyful because they allow us to numb out from those uncomfortable feelings or to avoid people and situations that we're not ready to face yet. The thing about avoidance and distraction techniques is that they actually keep us away from ourselves as well as other people and situations. So if you're trying to really find your purpose and live your joy and have a truly fulfilling and aligned life, you can't do that if you're prioritizing things that are actually avoidance. Again, this takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness and honesty and discernment on your part. So tune in and check in and see what is really behind my reason for loving this thing that I love. The second big reason that we want to focus on really living our joy is because when we're feeling drained and bleh and depressed or meh about life, it's hard for us to live our purpose. We actually want to conjure up the energy so that we can carry that into our way of being and our work in the world. And we can do that by prioritizing things that bring us joy. We have all heard the sayings, we have to fill our cups before we can pour into other people or experiences. And if you are feeling drained or anxious or depressed, or just generally bleh about life, you're not able to give anything to anyone outside yourself. So you have to start with you. And this is all about prioritizing pleasure and self-care specifically to experience more joy in your life. One of the easiest ways to do this is to start by looking at the areas of your life where you are feeling the least amount of satisfaction, fulfillment, and joy. So really looking at your life and saying, what are the things that I absolutely have to do that I can't necessarily get out of right now? And how can I bring more pleasure and self-care into those practices? Some of the things that I use as an example most often is if you have to commute to work, how can you make that a more pleasurable experience? That might be getting some essential oils and a diffuser for your car, wearing your fuzzy slippers while you drive, and listening to some of your favorite podcasts, or even something educational that you've really wanted to learn while you commute. If you're doing something like paperwork and taxes, that can be lighting candles, listening to your favorite music, and sipping on something delicious while you do that work. So these little things, it seems so insignificant and might even feel hard to do if you're feeling particularly drained and low energy. They are going to really help bring more pleasure to your everyday experiences. It's all about self-care and experiencing pleasure, which makes life, your baseline of life, overall more joyful. There is always room for more pleasure and self-care in our life. So look for those little pockets, those little windows or places that you can layer in more of those pleasurable experiences and really start to prioritize that, because that's going to raise your baseline and allow you to have more energy to then pursue the things that really bring you joy and even uncover them again if you're so far lost that you don't even remember what they are. Again, this requires discernment. So what are the things that you believe bring you a sense of pleasure pleasure and joy, but are really about stuffing or avoiding or numbing. That can be things like food, it can be things like sex, it can be things like alcohol or substances that, again, bring us a temporary sense of relief and even pleasure and joy, but are actually about numbing and avoiding. The last thing I want to touch on in this video is, what do you do if you're not sure what brings you joy? And my advice is to experiment. Ask your family and friends what things bring them joy and see if they can introduce you to different activities or pastimes or practices that might bring you joy as well. Try new things on for size and a whole variety of things. So try getting outside, try being creative, try intellectual things, have new experiences, meet new people, join new groups, do things that seem very counterintuitive for who you are historically and your personality, just to see what is bringing me joy, what is actually fun and fulfilling and adding value to my life and really bringing my energy up. And you can use Google. What are things that bring other people joy? What are self-care practices that you can start to adopt into your own day-to-day routine? The thing about this work is that it takes a bit of time to really take and stick, meaning do things for longer than you think you should, especially if you're feeling particularly depressed or anxious or unfulfilled and lost in life. Do the things that you know used to bring you joy and do it for longer than you think you should. It takes time for these things to really kick in. Don't do something once and decide that it's not for you because you didn't feel immediate joy. Give it a few goes. Really practice bringing in as much self-care as possible, especially when you don't feel like doing it. So taking that bubble bath, lighting those candles, going that extra step to add more pleasure and joy to your day to day, even if you're not fully feeling energized from it yet, it takes a little bit of time for that stuff to really integrate and start to raise our baseline, especially when we've been feeling particularly low. Be as consistent as you can be. Again, I know it's really difficult when you're feeling lost or you're feeling unfulfilled and unhappy or even depressed in life. These things are really hard to do. Go through the motions and do them anyways. It might not feel good, like I just said, but keep doing it. Get in the practice of making self-care, pleasure, and joy a priority for you. And I promise it will start to sink in and things will begin to shift in their right time. Keep with it and be consistent. Again, really focusing on living our joy and prioritizing that allows us to live our purpose more fully because it brings us home to ourselves and it creates this really powerful baseline from that self-care and self-love perspective, as well as with our energy, so that we have more to give to our life and our work and our relationships and really create rapid transformation in all areas of our life and contribute in the way that we are meant to. We cannot contribute if our cup is empty. We have nothing to give. So take the time if you're feeling lost or you're not feeling like you're living your purpose or you're not feeling joyful and fulfilled in general in your life. Make this work a practice. Really prioritize it like it is your job. And I promise that it will start to raise the baseline for everything in your life. What will you focus on today and this week and this coming month? Share with us below if you would like accountability and if you need support, reach out to me. I also have more free resources at stephaniezamora.com/free, and I will catch you in the next video.